All right, we're ready to go. So,
Okay. Well, Diane asked me today how we were gonna start this, and I said, well, we'll just go back to when she was diagnosed. And, oh no, I don't wanna do that, because she has a lot of history before that. But we did read a psalm this morning, and I wanted to share that. It's Psalm number 127. Except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it. Except the Lord keep the city, the watchman waketh but in vain. It is vain for you to rise up early and to sit up late, to eat the bread of sorrows, for so he giveth his beloved sleep. Lo, children are an heritage of the Lord, and the fruit of the womb is his reward. As arrows are in the hand of a mighty man, so are children of the youth. Happy is the man that hath his quiver full of them. They shall not be ashamed, but they shall speak with the enemies in the gate. So this little psalm talks about what a blessing children are. Have many children, it's a blessing. Well, Diane never had any children physically, but she taught for 35, 40 years. She's had many, many children under her mentorship. So I think we wanted to start there, since we didn't want to start when she was first diagnosed with Alzheimer's. We wanted to go back for the many years that she did teach. And I was going to say too, she was a product, she's from Lincoln, she was a product of the public schools, but not really, I didn't want to say that. She's a product of Sunday school. She's had many, she'll tell you about the many great Sunday school teachers she has had. So she's the product of Sunday school. So, there's a little introduction.
Oh, well, I'm kind of out of the loop, you know. Now I just clean around here. Don't drop things on the floor. Pick that up. I don't know where to start, really. I wasn't really, I don't know, maybe you should talk about the disease first. Okay.
Okay, well, in 2015, 2016, you guys were what, in 8th grade, maybe?
Yeah,
In 2016, you graduated from 8th grade?
I think that's about right.
Okay, so you were 8th graders, and Diane, that was her, let's see, that would have been, that was her last year of full-time teaching.
I had to beg to, it wasn't hard, but Miss Nyland was still here, and she was one of my students at another school. And so I told Miss Nyland that I still wanted to teach one more year, because it was the most fabulous group of students I had would ever have. I was, I don't know if you guys have AP classes anymore, but I was teaching AP classes, and I say a lot. That's really bad, isn't it? Because we have drama and stuff. But I get kind of off. But I asked Miss Nyland if she would cut me some slack, because I knew I could do one more year of AP. So she let me do that. And she said, don't tell anybody, because people freak out, because this disease is not very well known even yet. And so I just always had to put the pedal to the metal anyway when I was teaching, because I taught a lot of different subjects at here, and she gave me the grace to have that last year with the most magnificent students I had ever had. And so that's kind of a little bit of an introduction, I guess.
She came into that year thinking she was gonna teach full-time. And because of what had happened the previous year with misplacing things and just a lot of tension about, where's this, I can't find that, or students said they gave me their paper and I can't find it, and I know they gave it to me. So it was very, a lot of tension for Diane, and she was working long hours. She'd get here at 7:30 and stay till 9, and then work all weekend, Saturdays and Sundays, and so I was thinking now, is she just stressed out and tired and misplacing things because of the long hours she's working, or what's going on? So I think it was in February of 2017, she's working part-time here. We went to see a neuropsychologist to evaluate her. And that was,
Brain.
this lady, when we walked in the office, she said, it'll probably take 5 or 6 hours. Well, after about 3 or 4 hours, she said, she had it nailed down that I brought it today. I've never brought this before, but what she diagnosed, and I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but a summary, basic judgment was impaired, tasks required mental manipulation were impaired, including basic mental math. She's not real good at math.
I was really good at math when I was in 8th grade. I was the best math student that my teacher had.
Every time she goes in for a exam now, she goes in every 4 months. They always give her a little test, 20 questions. Here's 3 words, and I'm gonna ask you what those 3 words here in about a minute. And they give her this 20, just to see how she's doing. They'll kind of grade her from every quarter. And the toughest one is start at 100 and count back by 7.
I just say, oh, forget it. Just forget it.
So math.
I could never do that.
So anyway, this doctor said that it is noteworthy both her father and her paternal grandmother had early onset dementia. In summary, the patient's cognitive profile and history are suspect for early onset dementia. Alzheimer's, Lewy body, and frontal temporal dementia are considerations. So I think what they nailed it down to was what they call Lewy body dementia, not necessarily Alzheimer's. It's kind of on that same family, but she has what they call Lewy body dementia. And that difference is that she sees things, like at nighttime she'll wake up and see things. Even in the daytime she can see things that I don't see, and so she has illusions, which is not a real problem. I mean, when you're trying to sleep and you have people climbing up the wall of your house, you have people up on the roof that are scaling down, or you have whatever. It's amazing what we wake up with sometimes in our house. But that's something we live with, and so we've just completed 4 years since her diagnosis. And I think the main thing I would like to say is that we want to keep her, her mother shared something with me once, and it says something about engagement, keep her engaged. What they did with her grandmother was put her in a room.
No,
Great-grandma?
My dad.
Well, but they put your great-grandma in that room too. They just said, they
Well,
just put her in a room and left her there. That's because it wasn't making sense.
That was way, way back when they didn't even know what the disease was.
That's how they handled it.
Yeah,
And it's gotten better, whereas your mom put your dad in, during the day, he was like in a daycare place for a while.
and see this, you guys, this is all over my family. And my sister just recently I was pretty sure she had it too. Because we were very, very, very much alike. We look alike. And
She's 2 years older.
yeah, and she's in a care facility now, and she loves it. I would crawl up the wall if I had to be in one of those places. But she loves it. She feels really safe, and so the heritage that I have is German Russian. You know the Runzas? Yeah, yeah. They're the Runda people. Now you can eat Runzas. They're good. You can keep eating it. But the genetics of this is very much in the German Russian people. And so, you know, what can I do?
So that's kind of how they handled it back then. And then her mom shared something with me about 2 years ago about keeping her engaged. And that's one blessing that Omaha Christian Academy is to us, that we can keep Diane engaged here. You don't want to shove her off somewhere. You don't want to limit her. We got her new hearing aids just to keep all her faculties is at top notch. In car terminology, you say keep her tuned up. You know, we want to keep her tuned up, hearing, visually, and all her senses. And so that's been a main thing for us, that we keep her engaged. And the other thing is keep things familiar. Well, she's worked here in this building since we moved in, and she's put in more hours here than she does at home. So this is like her home away from home. This is her home, and she's very much familiar with this setting, so that's very good for her too. If you put her in a different setting, it creates a lot of stress and tension, such as if we traveled one time and we flew. That was not a good situation, because Diane was in a lot of different situations quickly, and that was very hard for her to adjust mentally to that. So it's really a blessing to be here, so that she can actually help me a lot, and then also be.
I do the work.
Yeah.
He talks to everybody, right? Yeah.
So this is really good. This is very good. And then, of course, be it we're home, she goes out for walks. We wear these little bracelets we got a few years ago, so that if Diane would get lost, she has her little bracelet on, and they could call this place, and then they would connect me with them. But that has not been a problem, because she stays in kind of in a run, walks pretty much the same thing, stays in the same familiar area all the time, and so that's been good. But a little by little, you can see people say, how is she doing? How's your wife doing? Guys will ask me at church. I'll say, well, it's a kind of a little like this. It's not just kind of little by little by little. I'm required to do a little more different things for her than, say, like 4 years ago. I would have never had to do a lot of the things that I do for her that I do now.
Can you give us some examples?
And so that's just a little by little, and we're just hoping to keep her home as long as we can. That's our goal. And staying engaged here and other places is very helpful. And then she said if sometimes she ever has to go to a facility, just make sure she can sit by the window. She wants to sit by the window so she can look outside.
I'll run away.
After what we saw happen to her mother in one of these nursing homes, I said if she ever has to go to a nursing home, I'm going to go there and wash dishes or do anything I can to stay in that facility to watch her, because we were not very impressed with the way people were handled in some of the facilities, and they just kind of, just the opposite of what we're trying to do now. They're kind of, put in a little box almost, and that's it. Well, there's no life there. So we're trying to keep her world large.
I think we should have the students
Ask you questions.
ask questions.
Jason.
About your sister. is she like, you said she was in a facility, is she like assisted or independent?
She's in Lincoln, and she
The Barbers is the name of the place.
it's a beautiful facility. It's like kind of jealous. Not really, but she actually probably was in dementia before I was. She's 2 years older, and it's just a really good place for her, and she loves it. She was a little bit leery at first, like anybody would be, but yeah, she just loves it there.
The difference is between where her sister is and where her mom was, is that her mom was on Medicare and Medicaid. And these facilities can only take a certain number of these Medicaid government-paid people. They can only have a certain number of them because the government doesn't pay enough to keep the facility open to pay all the bills. So they can, 20% can be Medicaid, Medicare, and the other 80% have to pay. So her mom was in a pretty poor place. Her sister.
But my mom didn't have Alzheimer's.
No, but I'm just comparing the different places that
Okay.
people stay in. And her sister's in a very nice place because I believe her son and her son and daughter-in-law both are working and making very good incomes, and they don't have any children. And so they can help subsidize or pay the full bill at this nice place where her sister's at. So, yeah, she's in a real nice place where she gets, she can do activities and things like that. But, for the whole time for the whole year during that virus, she couldn't leave the place, and we couldn't visit her, whereas Diane was out moving around and doing her normal thing. So that's the difference between the facilities.
So does the sister get helped day to day then? So she's in assisted living?
Say that again?
The sister's in an assisted living then?
Yeah, but they do have, I don't know in her particular unit, but they do have a memory care unit, maybe separate from that, so. Well, she probably would be in that memory care unit.
Yeah.
And
They
maybe they are
do,
mixing them in.
even when my dad was going to daycare, they did a phenomenal job with him, and he loved it. He loved going there every day. And it enabled my mom to keep working, because they would have been just decimated, because my parents were not wealthy at all. So.
Yeah, that daycare gave Diane's mom a chance to keep working and gave him a chance to get out of the house. Otherwise, he would have probably just sat there, looking at a wall.
Well, that's what he did for several years.
Yeah, until they put him in daycare.
Yeah. I mean, he was not eating. My mom would put food out for him before she'd go to work, and and it hadn't been touched because he just forgot. That's what I do. I forget. my best attribute. I was an English teacher, but my speech is kind of wobbly now. Now, you would know that I could be heard all over this building if I needed to be.
I know you're an
But,
excellent teacher, is what I know.
Yeah, I had a very commanding voice. And we got kind of crazy in that class.
Sometimes she has trouble coming up with words. I think the most interesting thing right now that I kind of struggle with is vision. She thinks maybe she's not seeing, she needs new glasses, which we do need to see an eye doctor for both of us, but I think there's a problem between the eye and the brain. There'll be, you might say that bottle, go pick up that bottle, I don't see a bottle. She'll have something will be right in front of her. I mean, her shoes. I can't find my shoes. I can't find my stocking cap. They're sitting right, 6 inches. And that's the most amazing thing to me is how she is little by little. I think she's losing her ability. Well, she couldn't, probably stopped reading, a year ago? When you couldn't read anymore? Somebody was gracious.
That was...
No, Tammy Crumweedy was here. Mrs. Crumweedy bought Diane a great big Bible with great big words, hoping that maybe that was the issue. She couldn't read the smaller print.
That was okay for a while, but it's still, there's something back here that doesn't work right.
Yeah.
And they don't know that the worst thing, I think, of this disease is they don't know. And we sat and listened for how many?
Probably 12 hours.
12 hours.
An hour a day for about 12 days.
Because if this was supposed to be, this is the thing. And it was all about food. It was all about food. It came down to food. They said, oh, if you eat these foods, you'll not have so much trouble. Baloney.
Or take certain pills or
yeah.
And you are on a medication now to help slow it down, correct?
Yeah, Anacept is the most commonly prescribed prescription for Alzheimer's patients. So that's kind of the baseline right there. She does take that, and then she was in a study within this last year. She was really excited to be in a study that maybe she could help come up with some solutions and come up with something that's going to help people with Alzheimer's. So we got her involved in a study, and they took blood out of her. They tapped her spinal column and took blood.
It wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
Really?
And what they wanted to do was, and then they were going to tap in again at 6 months and at the end of a year, just to see the difference in this fluid that goes up to her brain. And she'd take, I can't remember if it was 1 or 2 pills a day.
Yeah.
And just to see if this medication had something to do with the fluid and the effects on the brain. Well, after about 2 or 3 months, we were getting up at night. It was crazy. I thought that, we're both gonna die of no sleep. So I called him. I said, we're gonna have to drop out of this study. It's just killing us.
I just
And
about
Diane was
killed him.
brokenhearted.
Because I was like, I wanted to do something to maybe help. But they did get my spinal fluid, and it's not so bad. So if you ever have to go get a spinal tap, it's just like a pinch. It's a little pinch. So.
So I think we read where there's been like over 200 studies where they've done and try to come up with different medications and stuff, and so far, and billions of dollars, and so far nothing has really helped. So, and there was one more thing. She had the virus in January or something.
I don't know.
She passed out in our
In the bathroom.
fell into the shower, straight back onto the floor.
I have no recollection of it.
Were you home at the time? Were you home with her at the time?
I was home, yeah, and then we ended up taking her to the med center and the emergency room, and they found out she had the virus. So
What virus?
the COVID, yeah, she had that, And so,
And the doctor goes, well, your wife, and by the way, has the virus. And I was like, what kind of doctor are you? You're supposed to be a nice person.
so okay, we get her out of the hospital and they find out she's got real low blood pressure. And that's just normal. She's always had low blood pressure, and they give her
Because
this.
I ran for, I don't know, who's in track here? Yeah. Keep running. Anyway, yeah, that's one of the reasons why I think I have lasted this long.
Yeah. So she had low blood pressure, and they gave us this little pill to take to raise her blood pressure up. Most people have to bring their blood pressure down, but Diane's got to get hers up. And then eventually somebody told me, a neighbor who just really into health, he said something about the blood going to the brain and low blood pressure, and I just thought, well, I don't know, Lord, does that make sense that if we get the blood pressure up, she'll get more blood to the brain, which is good for the brain, which is good for her Alzheimer's. Maybe that her dad maybe had low blood pressure, and her great grandma had low blood pressure, and that's something. So we're on this little medication now, which was kind of a side, really wasn't have anything to do with the Alzheimer's diagnosis, but in the long run, it just kind of like, okay. So that might be a real blessing that she's on that right now, and keep the blood pumping up there as much as we can, and counter that low blood pressure, and keep the blood flowing. So that's kind of something that just recently happened, and I'm really thankful for that. Any other questions?
You can ask me anything you want.
I know we talked about you wanting to go travel again. Would that ever be a possibility?
For traveling?
Yeah.
Yeah, I still want to travel. I still want to go back to the Czech Republic, and because I taught there, and I know people there, and I'd like to. I can't speak the language anymore, but they can. Yeah, I would. I've got a few places that I'd really like to go. One being the Hebrides. One of my stints was
Iceland?
Geography, and so whenever I went to go somewhere, I would always talk to my students and say, hey, we should go on a day trip. But it would take, hours and hours and hours and hours. But I did